Hey guys, okay, so it's getting lighter. It's getting lighter out here. Um, and my time is almost done, so that's awesome. So I'm Kat and I'm back, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the Game of Thrones. I've just got a few other ideas. I'm sure there's some others will come to me as I go along. Um, Shout out to all the dudes who are doing awesome jobs. Game of Thrones Academy. I keep going down this list. Civilization X, you cannot go wrong with those two. Raw Wrist and Emergency Awesomeness. Um, Probably hundreds, if not thousands, of other people probably doing better quality videos with pictures that aren't mine. That kind of give you a background or history of the Game of Thrones and how it relates to uh, our own history and things of that nature. So my little videos are either expansions or fill in the gaps of other ideas that have already been explored. So hopefully some of these things will help you and give you a couple ideas where the Game of Thrones uh, series might be going. Since we're already up to the last book and the next book hasn't been released yet, we have no idea. So I've done a bunch of other videos regarding some other theories that I've discussed. And so here's the next one I wanted to talk about. Talked about Jon Snow, and I've talked about Bran. So now I want to talk about Rickon for a second and the Isle of Skagos. So in the book, not in the series, in the book, uh, Rickon goes with Asha to an island called Skagos, and it's just to the northeast of Westeros. Where's this? What is this island? Well, in the book, Skagos is occupied by some potentially wild men. They're other men, and they're nominally been Stark men this whole time. But there's all these stories about what they did, and they're potentially cannibals, or and they're wild hunters and all kinds of crazy stuff about that island, and nobody really knows. Probably, all these stories are just stories to keep people away from the island. Don't go there. Well, and what's the best and easiest way to defend yourself from invaders? And that's to scare the crap out of them before they even try to get to your island. So um, there is a there's an awesome reason for Skagos, but I wanted to talk about what they are in history and what some of the historical and mythological concepts are around the real island that probably um, gave its name even to Skagos in Game of Thrones. So in real history, and in real life, there is an island off the coast of Scotland, and it's the Isle of Skye. But historically, in past history, the Isle of Skye was actually the island of Scathach. And Scathach was a warrior woman. And in legend, she came from across the ocean with her father and a number of her own tribesmen. And historically, some historians have linked it to potentially Scythians or Scythians, where the tribe was a fairly a tribe of equality. So both men and women were warriors and rode horses and were swordsmen and great fighters. And supposedly there was this great migration, and as they were trying to escape the Persian expansion, and one of those tribes landed on the Isle, what is now Skye, and at the time it was called Scathach. And in Scottish and Irish mythology and legends, Scathach was a warrior woman, and she had a castle that the ruins of the supposed castle exist today, called Dun Scathach, and it essentially meant the Castle of Shadows. And in mythology, Cuchulainn one of the great Irish warriors, was sent to Scathach to learn how to fight. And she taught him all of the ways of her people, and he became a great warrior. There's some other history there where he falls in love with, or sleeps with anyways, I don't know if there was love involved, sleeps with one of her daughters, accidentally breaks her fingers, or I don't know if it was accidentally or on purpose. Her real lover comes in and challenges Cuchulainn to a sword fight, and Cuchulainn wins, and then he becomes with, that's her name, Wuth, I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, becomes her lover, and Scathach promises to continue teaching him how to be a great warrior if he'll go and kill Aoife, which is her sister on the Scottish mainland. And so he does, but before he does, before he can kill Aoife, Aoife makes him a bargain. He says, or he makes her a bargain and says, let me sleep with you. So Cuchulainn, he's a good dude, right? Let me sleep with you, and bear me a child, and then I'll spare your life. And so there's a little story, Cuchulainn, not such a good guy in this story, that he rapes Aoife, and she does, in fact, give him a child, Conla. And many years later, Conla comes to Cuchulainn's castle, and before he can tell Cuchulainn who he is, Cuchulainn kills his own son. Awesome, right? Okay, so so there we go. The Isle of Skagos is Scathach and Don Scathach, the Island of Shadows, and yeah, back in the day, the Isle of Skye was allegedly populated by cannibals, like Skagos, right? Okay. And yeah, that's where you would go to learn all kinds of warrior things. So what's going to happen to Rickon? He's been captured by Ramsey Bolton. And Asha tried to assassinate Ramsey, but she wasn't nearly as clever enough. And so Ramsey killed her. And now Rickon is where? What's going to happen to Rickon? Well, there's a lot of different theories. It's potential that Ramsey is a nasty bastard and will nail him to a cross and flay him upside down and then set him on fire. So there's potential for that, because Rickon doesn't really have a story except as a son. But, you know, just the heir and the spare, he's the spare. Now that Jon Snow's back and Sansa's talking about making him a legitimate Stark. But potential is, we don't know where Asha and Rickon has been the whole time before they are captured by the Umbers. And if we ever get to the backstory, maybe they did go to the island of Skagos, and what would Rickon learn there? Since Skagos is Scathach. Well, he might have learned to be a warrior, or to fight, or to use even the shadows to fight. Hopefully he didn't learn to be a cannibal. So there's Skagos, Scathach, the Isle of Scathach. I really recommend that. And by the way, Scathach was also a Welsh goddess who had a cauldron, and she was married to the version, I'm probably not pronouncing his name right, but essentially Scathach, the Welsh goddess, was also equated with Hecate, who was a demigoddess who would come and go out of the underworld of Greek mythology. And Scathach in Welsh, she had a great cauldron, and she would dip the souls of the dead in there, and she would, they would basically forget, like kind of like the River Leith, who they were, and then they could be traveled on to another life, a new soul. And there's a story about the potential that she let somebody go. It ended up being the death of her husband and some of her children. Hecate, equally, there's some mythology that she Hecate is the tri-goddess as well, and so she's like the maid, the mother, and the old crone. And in Greek mythology, in the underworld, she's the chick with the torch that leads the dead to their, their particular places. So if you're going to Elysium, she takes you down that road, and if you're going to the other place where you're just a normal soul with no memory, just wandering around for eternity, she takes you there. And by the way, if you want to get the hell out of Hades, she's your woman. And she helped Orpheus escape the underworld with his wife. Don't look back. He did. Anyhow, so you can see all that. I've talked about all of that in my previous videos about Greek mythology and things of that nature. But there's Scathach for you in the Isle of Skagos and what might be Rickon's role. So potentially they came back on purpose. Well, obviously Asha had a plan to kill Ramsey. So what's Rickon? Is he just a pawn in the game, or has he got something up his sleeve? Thank you, and talk to you later. Have a good one.